so we've learned our basic trigonometric functions, sine, cosine, and tangent. So now let's take a generic triangle and see if we can find either an angle or a side. So let's go ahead and start with angles. Now for each one of these, I don't necessarily know which trigonometric function to use. I'm not told that in my problem. I have to then use my definitions. So I'm looking at angle A here, and I'm given the opposite and the adjacent. So if we remember, the opposite over the adjacent is the tangent. So that is why we need to have those memorized. So that means the tangent of A is that opposite over the adjacent. Now remember, since we're not looking for the tangent, we're looking for the angle, I'm going to have to type that in as the inverse tangent. And again, most of our calculators can do that all in one go, but you can also type the fraction in first and then do the tangent. And let me just show you that on my calculator. So I'm going to hit second and then tan, and again it should show up as that little tan minus 1. And again, I'm doing it all at once, so I'm going to put that 4/3 in parentheses. And looks like that my angle is approximately 53 degrees. I'm going to keep one decimal point and call that 53.1 degrees. All right, my next example, here's my angle A, and this time I've got different sides. Here's the adjacent, and here's the hypotenuse. So once again, I am going to have to remember my definitions, and that is the cosine. So here, the cosine of A is going to be 7/10. And once again, to get the actual angle, we're going to have to do that inverse. So A is the inverse cosine of 7/10. So again, on my calculator, I hit second and then cosine. And again, I should see that little -1. And then 7/10. And let me hold my hand there so you can actually see that. And it looks like I get about 45.6. I am going to round that number up. 45.6 degrees. All right, so you'll notice when I'm looking for an angle, I am going to have to do that little inverse. Well, what if I'm looking for a side? So here I'm given the angle, and you'll notice I'm also given one of the sides. So here, looking at the angle, here is the opposite, and that's the hypotenuse. So once again, I am going to have to remember my definitions. That is the sine. Now this time I'm given the angle, so that means the sine of 40 degrees is going to be 20/x. Now, I'm not going to have to do the inverse, but I am going to have to do a little bit of algebra. Remember, anytime I have that denominator, I'm going to multiply by it. So I'll get x times the sine of 40 degrees equals 20. And then I'm going to divide by that. So I'm going to get x is 20 divided by the sine of 40 degrees. And again, we should be able to do that in one step on my calculator. So 20 divided by, again, I'm going to hit just sine. I don't want that inverse. And I've got the 40. Do note, if you're unable to do that in one step on your calculator, you will have to first write down the sine of 40 degrees and then do 20 divided by. You could also do that second answer, and you can do it that way as well. And looks like I get about 31.1 for that side. I was not given units, so I'll just leave it as the number. Let's hit one more like that. Now I'm given the same two sides, so I'm clearly going to use the sine, but you'll notice my x is in a different location. So once again, I'm using the sine of 35 degrees, but this time my x is on the top. So once again, every time I've got that denominator, I'm going to multiply by it, and you'll notice I am writing this the other way around. And this one's actually a little easier because that's all I need. So let's type that in on my calculator. So 50 times the sine of 35, and it looks like I get 28.7 as my answer.